founder of My Core Balance, a posture assessment and correction system based here in San Jose. He has been in the fitness industry for 10 years, and then some, because you've been an athlete, you know what? Okay, sorry. Beginning his career working.
That's why I gave this trip.
Beginning his career with working in the Egoscue method. Some of you have heard that on the hip resurfacing site. Okay. His number one goal is to inspire people to live pain-free and active lives. Chris and his wife live in San Jose with their 2-year-old boy and soon-to-be second baby, that they don't know what sex is. I'd like to introduce Chris Janke-Bueno, but I want to say that before I had my hip resurfaced, and we get into everything, don't we, to find out what's going to fix us. And I did a lot. And I found Egoscue through Chris and another Egoscue therapist. And he worked with me, evaluated me, gave me exercises to hone in on, and I had to be patient because I want to go, go, go. And Egoscue is just exercises designed to set your posture straight. How do you get there? Everybody, all these therapists that I've been to, chiropractors, whatever, say, okay, we'll work on your posture. What do you give me to work on my posture? So he helped me not only get out of pain and learn so much, and that my surgeon who did my first orthoscopic saw my hip and said, what have you been doing? You have joint space. I didn't have joint space before. After he was giving me Symdisc injections, you know, when, if you are familiar with the injections, they give you like a fluid, like they give the knee joints. Well, anyway, he saw me getting improvements and changing everything. I got into the therapy myself. I went and got certified, an intensive certification process with all types of training and internship, following his footsteps. Well, now this is his business. He has here in San Jose. I'm going to give you Chris. And well, his brother-in-law is also a therapist, and they know the body inside out. So I go to him when I'm hurt or things are flaring up, and they fix it. Okay, so he's my go-to. He's my go-to. Here you go. So he had to come today. Is that too long or what?
Thanks, Nancy. It's great to be here with all of you. Nancy asked me several months back if I would speak, and I jumped on it instantly. So I really I appreciate the time that you guys are giving me in talking about my experience and my view. I'm up here, like what they were saying, sharing my information that I've been focusing on for the last 10 years with you, and you guys can run with it any way you like. So this last week, my wife and I took our son down to San Diego, and we took him to a lot of different theme parks, but one of them was the Wild Animal Park, which is actually run by the San Diego Zoo. It's about 30 miles away, and this park is amazing. It has basically open expanses where the animals can actually run free, and you can't walk from exhibit to exhibit because it's too spread out. So we got in one of these trams, and we're riding in the tram, and the driver is talking on the PA system, and she's talking about each animal, and what I noticed the theme of the entire visit is how precisely animals adapt to their environment. So one example is this camel is this color, it's almost the color of this door right here, because that's the exact color of the sand in the desert. And it's not like the camels just say, hey, you know, maybe we should figure this out, paint our coats. It's over thousands and maybe even millions of years of evolution. The ones who kind of stand out, maybe they're a different color, get eaten faster. The ones that survive, their ancestors are pretty much the same sandy color, and so that's evolution right there. The gazelles who keep getting faster and faster every generation because those that escape the cheetahs are able to reproduce and produce faster offspring. So then I started thinking about humans. How have we adapted? What have we evolved from? So I came up with a couple different hypotheses, I guess. So number one, we don't have claws, right? We don't have very sharp teeth. We're not very fast. We can't climb very well. So what is it that gave us that evolutionary advantage? And I think it's our community. I think it's our ability to bond together and create a community whereas everybody survives. So a good example I thought of was, say you all go camping, and there's 10 of you or so, and you get lost. You're out in the wilderness and you have nothing there. And one of your friends is a master at all the knots. They're a master hunter. They know which plants are edible and which ones to stay away from. You're going to stick with that person, right? And so that's, as humans, I think we have that biological drive to kind of follow the leader in a way. So that was one of my thoughts. And now the other thought I had was, well, what are we evolving from now? We don't have any natural predators. The population is huge because no animals are coming to eat us or anything like that. So how are we evolving? What is our lifestyle like, and what is our body in turn adapting to? So you guys are doing it right now, right? It's a lot of sitting, right? We wake up in the morning, we sit, we eat our breakfast. We walk a little bit to the car, we sit in the car, drive to work, probably stressing out in the traffic, driving to work. We sit at the desk, we drive home, we're sitting in our car, and then we veg out in front of the TV because we are exhausted from all the sitting that we're doing. So, any of you, my 3 physical therapists here, you guys know the body. When you're sitting a lot, what muscles getting tight? Right. Hips, glutes, everywhere in the pelvis. If you raise your hand, actually, real quick, if you guys are familiar with the psoas muscle. Okay, good. I expected all of you to be. Most people are not because it starts with a P, but it's pronounced psoas, and you can't see it. You can't make it bigger, stuff like that. Very important muscle for the hip and lower back. So sit, right? If we think of a cause and effect, right, a lot of our imbalances we can trace back to causes of us not living in an environment that we were designed to live in. With the zookeepers at the zoo, they try to mimic, they try to put the cheetahs and the elephants and the giraffes in an environment that mimics Africa or Asia or wherever they're from as closely as possible, right? And I believe health and our pursuit of health is kind of like that. Like number one is we're trying to put ourselves in a more natural environment. So if you guys ever come to our workout classes, we take off our shoes. We like going outside, we need sun. Things like that. But to the extent that we cannot, the zookeepers and then ourselves, we also take these other measures where we have to kind of interject our own modern way of thinking and our own modern techniques. So, for example, like 3 weeks ago, a gorilla gave birth to a little baby gorilla like this big by C-section. Now that gorilla would have died in the wild, but our modern surgeon abilities, they were able to deliver that gorilla. And I kind of see Western medicine in a similar way. There's a book called Mommy Medicine. It's a children's book. I'm into children's books recently. It's called Mommy Medicine. It basically talks about how, yes, Western medicine is very beneficial at a certain point. And there's a whole ladder, there's a whole tier of things where sometimes, if maybe you have a small headache, sometimes a glass of water and maybe just going to sleep is the answer. Sometimes you need more aggressive measures like a massage or something like that. Sometimes you may need some medication, and sometimes you may need some type of invasive surgery. And I think one of the keys to health, and I know all of you are practicing this, one of the keys I believe is to find what level you should be at. So, and I say I know all of you are practicing this because Nancy tells me that most of you have been told by a doctor you need a new hip. You need to get it completely redone. And most likely you guys are a lot like me and say, do I really need a total hip? Or can I just get it resurfaced? So it's kind of, from what I understand, kind of up-and-coming surgery a little bit and gaining popularity because it's less invasive and because it's a little bit more in line with what the body needs. So, okay, so I talked a little bit about putting our own bodies back in the environment that we were designed to live in. Now, I don't know about you, but personally, I would not want to live in the Paleolithic age. I like technology. I like being able to drive a car. I like the computer, stuff like that. But I want the benefits of feeling balanced. So I put together my 10 keys to success in any fitness program. And what we do, I consider it a fitness program, even though our main goal is posture alignment. But it is a fitness program. So, key number 1 is trust yourself. Even if you have the biggest guru, the most world-renowned health expert on posture or fitness or whatever you're doing, and they tell you to do this exercise, but you feel like, my situation tells me that this exercise may not be good for me, then I believe that you should not do it. Or tell the instructor and maybe they can modify it and you can do the modification. Number 2 is that when you're exercising, when you're doing anything for a long period of time, so like sitting, you want to do opposite. You want to rebalance things. Every muscle in the body has an opposite muscle. So going back to the hip flexor, the psoas, starts with a P. Right here in the front of the body, the glutes are the opposite muscle. Every muscle has an opposite. Bicep, tricep, lateral, lateral here. Every muscle has an opposite. So if you feel like one muscle group is over tightening, you may need to strengthen the opposite. Number 3 is, this is key, and this is what Aaron and I were actually just talking about this with a lot of people who exercise. You want to stay within your form limit. And this, even if you don't like exercise, you never want to exercise again, this applies to you. If I have a can of soup on the top shelf of my kitchen, and let's say my shoulder is severely restricted, and I go to reach up for the can of soup. Now the can of soup, let's say, is this high. If I had a real natural open range of motion, I could reach that can of soup, pull it down. If my shoulder's restricted, let's say I can only get this high, but I still need to get that can of soup. Now I'm going to have to change my form in order to kind of cheat for the pop.
Yeah, just nice.
I'm offering chiropractic adjustments. You're going to have to change your form in order to get that. Now that's a very simple example, but it happens all the time with fitness classes especially, is that you're doing one exercise and you can't really do it 100%, and so you'll alter your form a little bit, thinking that you're getting into it more. What I recommend doing is actually taking a step back. Pick the exercise where you can do the form perfectly, and then gradually you'll get stronger and you can move up. That principle is key. Number 4 is you want to work every single joint in your body, every range of motion of that joint. So there's 3 planes. There's frontal, there's left, right, there's sagittal, that's front to back, like walking, and there's transverse, which is a twist. So every joint, every range of motion, every day. It doesn't have to be like I'm going to do 100 bicep curls or anything like that. Just passive movement, keeping the balance. Number 5, this is another key. Know the difference between a muscular workout, Arnold, pump and iron, right, and a nervous system workout. So I could get a workout by really focusing and rolling my shoulders forward. This is not going to make my shoulders real big and bulky and developed. What it's going to do is teach me how to work that range of motion better, more fluidly. So that I'm educating my nervous system, which is run by the brain. So if you just do crazy, like I'm going to work out crazy, and you're not really thinking about form, you're robbing yourself of nervous system workout. Number 6 is I kind of touched on this a little bit before. You want natural human movement in a natural human setting. So go barefoot, walk on the grass. It could be that simple. It could be taking off your shoes, go walking on the grass. Because every shoe has a high heel. So my heel is this high, my forefoot is this high, puts me at a slant, creates imbalances up the whole body. Number 7, what you want to focus on in the long term is progress and consistency, not perfection. If you're trying to be perfect, you're trying to look like the cover model of the fitness magazine, it's never going to work. And even if you get there, then you have all this competition of who has more covers and all this. I don't know what they worry about. So you're kind of letting yourself off the hook. You don't have to be perfect. You just want to progress. Am I a little bit better than I was last week? That kind of thing. Number 8, you want to set the goal and then focus on the process. So the good analogy for me is like if I were to walk down the street, that's my goal. I'm going to walk down the street. But I'm not thinking the entire time, walk down the street, walk down the street, walk down the street. Now I'm going to break it up into my smaller goals. I'm just taking one step at a time. I'm going to walk out the door, I'm going to turn left, and I'm not projecting myself into the future or into the distance, but I'm taking one step at a time from where I am now. Number 9, you guys are already doing this, share the journey. So this is a great gathering because I'm sure, I can only imagine, I'm sure when you're going through the process, it may seem kind of isolating, but you guys are bonding together, you guys are forming a cohesive unit, you're getting support from each other. That's a good thing. And then number 10, be your own guru. That follow the leader philosophy, mentality that I was talking about with humans, how we tend to form packs and kind of follow that person who's the best, right? The best outdoorsman who can start the fire, who can hunt for the food. That's good. And it has its limits because the surgeon who operates on your hip is going to operate to the best of their ability. And they cannot be you in the recuperation process, right? After they do it, you have your responsibility to take that on and to run with that, to be your own guru. And again, you guys are doing that today. You're learning as much as you can to empower yourselves for the future. Okay, so basically the moral of the story, we can recreate balance. We can, in our artificial environment, we can recreate balance without having to move to the forest or wherever we have to move. We don't have to be zoo humans. So let's move a little bit. Let me have, for those of you who are comfortable, go ahead and stand up. Remember a couple of those philosophies. Stay within your form limit. And know the difference between nervous system and muscular system. So you're not going to feel the pump, right? It's just going to be a nice passive range of motion for your joints. So number 1, let's start with the hip area. So we're going to squeeze our glutes. Remember that glutes are opposite of the hip flexor. All you're going to do is you're going to engage your glutes. You're going to squeeze and release. Not squeeze with your hands, but just engage. And don't squeeze your neighbor's glutes. Also, real quick, look down at your feet. Are they pointed directly straight ahead? Or do you see one foot kind of popping out? Now, the knee joint is a really dumb joint. It's a door hinge. That's it. It goes flexion, extension, right? So, if your foot is turned out, you can be fairly certain that that turnout is coming from the hip socket, where the femur inserts into the hip, the pelvis. So, just make sure you're going straight here. Squeeze and release the glutes. A couple more. Again, we're just trying to engage them. We're not trying to just light engagement. Nancy says, she likes to say she goes to the grocery store and does glute contractions in line. Make sure you wear a trench coat when you're doing that. You get some funky pickup lines.
Wearing a trench coat to the store has its own problems.
Sounds like a man speaking from experience. Okay, let's do this. This might get a little difficult, but let's try to stagger. So maybe if Mary took a step forward and the other Mary took a step back or something like that. We're going to do, just very lightly, you're going to go out, straight out to the side, just like that. Again, we're just trying to engage muscles in the lateral hip, right on the outside. Now this is actually very good for the hip that you're standing on as well. It's forcing stability. Normally when we have people go through this...
don't fall over, okay?
You also want your
And
butt
don't
straight
hold
for
on
this,
to
right?
it.
And good point, Wade. So you also want your feet straight for this. If your toes are turned out, you're probably going too
I
far.
fell and broke my leg at the Team Matei's house.
Yeah. Normally we'll hold for 1 minute. We'll do 1 minute, but let's go ahead and switch. So while we're doing this workout, I'll tell you guys a little bit. I'm going to pass around a clipboard. I've created a lot of resources online, like ebooks and stuff like that, that I'm more than happy to send all of you guys. I just need your email address and for you to circle what you're interested in. So I think there's 3 options there. I'll also offer a free consultation. And yeah, there you go. Okay, rest for a second. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with your thighs that you did with your glutes. So squeeze your thighs, your thigh muscles right here. You're going to just engage them and release. Engage and release. A couple different things we want to look for here. 1, are they engaging at the same time? Are they engaging at the same intensity? And are you able to release them at the same time? So like if you squeeze like this, they're the same, and then this one releases, and then this one's stuck, and then it finally releases. That's another source of imbalance. So instead of thinking about, if you guys do exercise, instead of thinking things like, I want to add more weight, I want to add more reps or more time, think about adding more quality to the left-right balance so that they're doing almost the same thing. Very few of us are ambidextrous. 9 out of 10 cars are automatic transmission. So even if you are left-footed, you're driving with your right foot all the time. So a lot of things we do are very one-sided. Okay, go ahead and rest for a second. And golf, tennis, Nancy plays them all.
There's golfers and tennis players.
Golfers and tennis players. Not bad sports, it's just you have to rebalance before and after. Okay, so let's go high knee. Now this is another good example. Number 1, don't kick your neighbor. Number 2, stay within your range. So this is a good way to tell if you've gone too far. If you're going up like this with your knee, and all of a sudden your straight leg is bending. See that? You guys see how that's the same as when I was reaching up for the can? Is that if I can't get this high without bending this or without leaning back, my body will cheat and figure out a way. So instead of that little cheat that you do at the end, which is called a compensation, just go as far up as you can, even literally, even if it's this high. Because if you do this again tomorrow, it'll be a little higher and a little higher. What we say is, if you progress 1 millimeter a day, that's 3 centimeters a month. That's not too shabby. So you guys are alternating, right? Left, right, left, right? Now even though the hip flexors, the psoas gets tight when we sit, we still need to be able to tighten it to engage it and then also let it lengthen. Engage and lengthen. Every muscle has a stretch length, a contraction length, and then a resting length, which is somewhere in between. Okay, alright guys, let's go from the shoulders. We're going to work our way up to the hips now. So just check your feet though, make sure you're straight ahead. And very lightly, let's do shoulder rolls forwards. Good. Now one way here to make sure that you're staying within your form limit is that there's no tension going up the neck, into the jaw, the head, nothing up there. So even if you have to start with a little dime-sized circle, that's completely fine. Again, that circle will get bigger and bigger the more you do this.
It might be a square too.
And it might be a square, yeah. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. But as you're navigating the edges, keep in mind, just like what I was saying with the thighs, is that the entire time you're going around, you want the left and the right to go at the same time. So if there's like a little choppiness here, you want to go real slow through that choppiness to make it as smooth as you can. So really getting the mind into the motion. You guys have probably heard the mind-body connection. A lot of people make it sound very mystical, but in my opinion, this is all it is. It's just thinking and focusing on what you're actually doing instead of being somewhere else or focusing on the end of the workout or something like that. Okay, let's go backwards. Nice and relaxed. One thing that can help, especially if you are at the computer a lot and you have a forward head and you have jaw tension, neck tension, don't worry, I don't care. You don't have to be politically correct or socially correct. Let your mouth open. Let your tongue, I don't care. Let your tongue come out. Yeah, just let it. There was actually, this is a quick side note. I heard of an orthodontist in the 80s. There was an orthodontist who would correct young teenagers' bites and their heads would come back. So tension in the jaw and neck area can have a very big impact in the entire head carriage, which can have a very big impact all the way down your body. Think about it like this. If you're like this, or even like this, how much pressure it puts on the rest of your body having to support. Another good analogy, hold your arm up like this, straight up above your head, and just kind of feel how heavy it feels, and then hold your arm straight out in front and kind of feel how heavy it feels, right? Which one would you rather do all day long? Probably up, right? And that's how, like in Africa, they'll carry baskets on their head because everything's closer to the center of gravity. Okay, let's go to the next one real quick. Arms open, golfers, you'll love this, called a golfer's grip. You're going to curl your fingers so the tips touch the palms. Put the knuckles on the temples with the thumbs facing down. Then you're going to bring your elbows toward each other and then whack your neighbor in the head. Forward and back, just like that. Good. Now again, if this creates tension in the neck, only stay in the range that does not produce tension. So when we do this, keep going, I'm going to show you guys this real quick. When we do this at the studio, we have people standing against the wall. So if you're going to try this at home, I would highly recommend doing this. When you first start though, don't be surprised if you can't touch your elbows to the wall. That's where a lot of people start. Eventually you'll be able to, and that'll be kind of your benchmark. You'll be able to feel that. What this is doing is this is opening up the chest, engaging the muscles in between the shoulder blades called the rhomboids, getting them coming in and out. Okay. Next one. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Let's go arms out to the side. Now before we even start this exercise, I'm going to have you guys really focus and really be true to yourself. So let's go down again. Let your shoulders drop down. Just totally relax. Now as you bring your shoulders up, you should be able to do so without any tension up here. The deltoid muscle, which is the ball right here, should be doing most of the work. It should not be going to the trap, which is this. So when I first started, I had really tight biceps because I was a muscle head and I wanted to get all huge. And if I was really, really honest with myself, that's as high up as I could go before my shoulders started doing this. So again, find your spot. If it's here, yeah. So your shoulders should be the same level as they were down here, basically. And then we're going to go the forward circles. And if you need to go down here, that's fine too, right here. Roll the shoulders back, roll the hands back, palms are facing the ceiling, or again down here. Now real quick, look at your hands. Are they level or are they more like this? So that'll tell you right now, and if they're not level, don't do this. No, they were, oh, got it. That's just telling you that your rotator cuff is not able to get you all the way over. You may have a tight pec, you may have a tight biceps. Basically you're here, palms up, let's go backwards.
Feel that yet, Gay? Feel that yet?
I'm gonna sign up for this dance.
I know. It's harder than gym.
Harder than it looks. Harder than it
Harder
looks.
than it looks.
Right?
Yeah, baby.
Okay, go ahead and rest. I only have a couple more for you guys.
Yeah, nice.
So, to give you guys a quick education, what we do with the body, we start with the hips, because that's the most important, that's your center of gravity. We work up to the shoulders. Now we do the core, which we consider just everything in between, front, sides, and back. Let's just start right here. Let's go about 45 degrees. We're just going to go side to side. Notice here is one side easier than the other. Again, stay in your form zone, your form limit. If there's...
Working up an appetite there.
There you go. I know you guys want to eat again, so I'm helping you burn a few calories so you can get back out there. You feel like one side is tighter than the other? Yeah. So when I first got into this work, it's actually because I bulged a disc in my back when I was 13. From 13 to 23, had almost always a very low level pain, and then I had periodic flare-ups where it would hit like a 20 out of 10 on the pain scale. And like one time I was 19 years old. I sat down on the couch and couldn't get up. Okay, go ahead and rest. Let's do front to back now. So just right here. Anyway, I sat down on the couch. I could not get up. I just physically could not get up. And I was with a friend at the time.
I'm not sure what we're doing now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I give that to you
I
real
mean, I
quick.
heard the term, but I'm not exactly
So
getting
let's
it.
go front back. Let's go right here.
So slouch kind of.
And then kind of a little bit past neutral. Just a little bit if it's comfortable. So I sat down in the chair, or the couch, I could not get up, and so my friend's two uncles, who I thought were they were ancient at the time, I was 19, they were 42 years old.
Okay.
When you're 19, everybody else is
You just
old,
lost
right?
everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
That's why I don't say that in the beginning. I build up a little rapport. But anyway, so as a 19-year-old, I'm like, what? This is not supposed to happen. They had to carry me out of the room. And so that's how I got started. Why did I start telling that story? The windmills. Because I had one hip that was about half an inch higher than the other, and this was my windmill. Perfect, bonk, and I would hit a wall. I couldn't even get past neutral. So you may have an exercise like that. If you do, just stick with it and modify the range if you need to. Last one. Go ahead and have a seat again. Give you guys a little rest. Hips, shoulders, connect the two. Now we gotta hit the extremities. Some of the most important parts of your body, your feet. So what I'm gonna have you do is just lift up one foot, just a couple inches off the floor, grab behind your knee if you need to, and just circle the ankle. Doesn't matter which direction, just pick a direction, go with it. We're gonna go both directions. Good, go ahead and switch directions. So, anybody ever driven to San Diego? So yeah, we drove down last week, so that's 7 hours each way if you don't have a toddler. 10 hours each way if you do. We stopped at every In-N-Out burger on the way down.
Point flex yet?
In-N-Out. You switched directions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now point flex, straight up and down.
I saved you.
Thank you. Anyway, when we got down there, I wasn't in pain, but I just felt off. I don't feel right. I've been sitting for 10 hours. And I didn't want to do any exercise. Go ahead and switch legs. Because it was 11:30 at night. I'm like, I want to go to bed. But I did one exercise. I did foot circles. And woke up the next morning like, oh, my back feels better. So your feet, if your feet aren't moving, like imagine if you wore big socks over your hands all day and then wrapped them in, switch directions. Wrap them in a shoe, and you couldn't move your hands all day, how badly they might hurt. Okay, now go ahead and point flex, straight up and down. Go ahead and rest. So just to reiterate, we can recreate balance even though we do not live in an environment that is even close to what our ancestors lived in. We can recreate that balance if we're intentional and deliberate with how we structure our exercise program. Thank you guys again for giving me your time, and have a great day.